This episode of XIV Reborn is brought to you by Net.
Spent all his time doing that. Spent the entire time doing that. That's what he's been getting ready. This
0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
What do you gotta do? Try logging in again. Come on.
Go, go, go! Netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Sign up for a free 30-day trial today. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of XIV Reborn, the Final Fantasy XIV show for August 27, 2013. You're watching Game Breaker TV. I'm Gary Getty. Coming up on today's show, early access is underway. Were you able to log in? I sure as hell wasn't. Some of us got some serious game time in, and the internet gets confused by the official release date. And seriously, guys, what the hell is a Mog Station? I don't know. But first up, joining us for some XIV chat, you know, is Mr. Happy Michael Poveromo. How are you, sir?
Hello, Gary. That is a marvelous background you have behind you.
Oh, what? What happened? What do you mean?
Nothing, Gary. It's great. How are you?
Good. I'm fantastic. It's what? Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Yep.
I lose track of days. Magic Man, Mr. Mike Byrne, what's happening?
How are you? So happy launch day.
Happy.
Day.
Happy
Is it launch day? I don't know if it's launch day.
I can't tell.
Technically launch day? We'll get to that.
It's so confusing. It's so confusing. So early access chugging along. Sort of misfiring maybe a little bit, running on 3 cylinders instead of 4. So there have been some issues. Pretty big ones. I want to get the bad news out of the way on this show, right off the top of the show. I don't want the whole show to be completely negative. I know everybody's here to have fun, maybe laugh, but maybe cry.
Shed a tear or two.
Gotta shed a tear.
I will.
Yeah, I mean, we got to look at this stuff. I mean, we can't completely fanboy out and just not even, remotely talk about some of the issues that have been going on for the past few days, because there are some issues.
It's that lovely thing where if we talk about it, we're being mean, and if we don't talk about it, we're idiots.
Yes. So we can't win. So we're just going to talk about it, get it right out of the way, because some stuff's been going on for the past couple days. And yes, internet, we know other MMOs have, all had other issues, except maybe 1 or 2. We won't name names, but I think it's important that we at least talk about them, because this is what's been going on, and people have been getting frustrated and having fun at the same time. So let's take it from the top. Early access launch, a few hours even before the early access launch hits, the magic go time. There's already some issues cropping up with the pre-order codes, weren't there? So Byrne, one of your guys at your crazy launch party was actually impacted by this, right? What was the deal here?
Yeah, Celsius, one of the guys at the house that night, spent probably about 7 to 8 hours trying to get the pre-order code in. Now, granted, he waited until the very last minute to pre-order anyway, so it's all right, fine. You give him a little bit of flack for that, but
that is not his fault. Whoa! Do not blame your buddy.
It isn't. Oh, I'm going to blame my buddy to a certain extent here, because in all of the print ad on their on the website and everything, those pre-order codes were advertised months ago as limited. Okay, yeah. They were limited. So if you waited, you were already taking a bit of a chance, albeit they probably should not be limited anyway. But
wait a minute, they did give him a code.
That way.
But they did give him a code.
The launch had already started by the time he got a pre-order code.
So he did not actually.
5 a.m. Eastern came.
Wait, I gotta understand this.
He got in game at 6:30.
So did he not actually get a code? Did they say like, "Hey, we're out of codes at this point," or did they give him a code and the code just wouldn't go into the system?
No, the site never. He got a pre-order code from the retailer and was entering it on Square's site. And the way the site worked was you would enter your pre-order code, and Square site would pump back what looked like a software registration key, is what it looked like. and you would enter that on your Square account, and it would say, boom, you have early access. He could not get his retail key to go in to pump back the Square Enix key. Now, they never came out and said, we're out, we don't have any more. They did, some other people were referencing the advertising saying that it was limited. And if you look at the properties for some pages, people were showing errors that the back end was indicating that it may be out of codes. What was more than likely happening is the algorithm generating the codes based off what you entered in could not come up with new codes very quickly. Every single time you tried, it got a code that was already used. So it caused a huge backlog of people trying to get these things, and eventually nobody was getting them. Launch started at 5 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Eastern. He's still trying to enter the code onto Square Enix's site. 6:30, 7 o'clock-ish, Square does make an announcement that that traffic and error, they didn't say what the error was, but they did say that that has been looked at and resolved. You should be able to get your pre-order code, and he was able to jump in. So it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours behind the launch.
Okay.
But a lot of people were pissed off about this because they could not.
I was gonna vent for a second because I was gonna say like I didn't read the fine print, but limiting your pre-order codes like that's kind of lame. Yeah. I think that's pretty lame because that's something that most people aren't gonna pick up on. I for one,
and that's why I said that's a different story. Should they have limited them? Don't know. That's something we can discuss. But the case of the matter was they were limited. So the longer you waited, you were taking things into your own hands anyway.
So he did finally get it resolved. It all worked out in the end. He missed an hour of gameplay. Okay. So he got more time in than I did.
Yeah, pretty much. The question is, did he really miss much?
Probably not.
No.
Hours. We're going to get into this, but
he's also like the minority. There were people that missed a lot longer than that because they couldn't get their codes entered in ahead of time. They had to wait until after the fact to do it. So it sucked. But at least it was resolved and relatively quickly.
All right, so early access then starts, and both of you were able to play right away, right? No errors, nothing. Just jump right in, go, and start going nuts.
Yeah, it took me about 20 minutes to get in initially because there's a bunch of people trying to get in at 5 a.m. and servers take a little bit to load up the first time. But after I was in, it was fine for the first few hours. I want to stress the first few hours.
Yeah, I got in right away too. No issues.
Yeah, I was up in the chat room with the live stream going. I was hanging out with the chat room and just kind of waiting, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're gonna wait? You're gonna start at 2?" And I'm like, "No, I need to go to sleep because I need to get up at 8 a.m. and it's 2." So I did not, and I kind of figured everybody would just be hammering on servers at that late hour. So I gave it till next day. So initially, boom, right in, early access starts, no big deal. But not too far from there, the Duty Finder seemed to be like the first thing to kind of go. Also, we saw error 90,000 creep back up again. I thought that was fixed. Didn't we get a confirmation that 3102 and 90,000 were fixed before early access started? Isn't that?
Yes, in fact, we did.
Yeah, we definitely got that.
So what's the story?
Not much of a story.
Yeah, it's not like any of us work for Square. We could tell you what the story was.
Oh, you mean they're not communicating? There's no communication?
Now you're just being mean. You're just being mean.
They didn't tweet? No? Nothing?
No, they eventually came out and said they were aware of something, and they did in fact try and fix it while we were playing. It's just a matter of how well they did the first couple tries.
Yeah,
all right, so the servers
this is
got
kind
taken.
of when things started going down, and there was a lot of patience, right? I mean, everybody kind of adopted, even the people, the naysayers that couldn't care less. They're not Square fanboys or Final Fantasy fanboys like myself. It doesn't matter to them. Even everybody was like, okay, you know what? It's an MMO launch. Let's just chill a few minutes. We'll let them fix some things, and then we'll come back in. The problem started and the goodwill started to go away as the same problems kept creeping up. 90,000 being one of them in particular. I believe somebody on this panel made a little prediction about this type of stuff. I don't know who that might have been, and these things cropping back up, maybe not potentially being resolved all the way. But that's when the goodwill started to kind of dissolve a little bit, when the same thing started popping.
Somebody should just went in and changed those error numbers. It would have been like F24B. Just change the number. At least it would have been like, oh, there's a new error. Crap, they've at least fixed the old ones. That would have probably been good PR. All right, so servers get taken down a few times.
Yep.
Each time the duty finder and instances kind of weren't working. What's the deal there? What was happening there?
It just seems like there was an overload, at least at the NAEU data centers where I was experiencing it.
Oh, here comes the conspiracy. You just opened it up.
I opened it up. Okay, but I have something to say about it. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But
all right.
So the servers are in Canada, correct?
Yeah, Montreal, I believe. Yeah, that's the location. But it just seemed like there were too many people trying to get in, and we overloaded it. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just way too many people, at least for the duty finder problem. I don't have much to say about the other errors.
Yeah, the game itself was actually pretty solid. It was running smoothly. We're all used to kind of, I mean, none of us are engineers or anything, but we all have a basic idea that for the most part, MMOs put instances on a separate server, right? And then they bounce you from a server to server as you enter an instance and leave an instance. In this case, all of the dungeon instances that you would expect to be on that instance-based server are there, but then also storyline quests that are those instance-based quests in the open world that you click destination and an event happens there. Those apparently were also on that instance server as well. And then the duty finder is kind of the bridge between those two items. So people were trying to get into their story quest and couldn't. People were trying to use the duty finder and couldn't, because it all hinged on the behavior and the connection between the standard gameplay server and the instance server, which failed dramatically. It failed dramatically and was fixed 3 times before it even started to function, let alone function fully.
So how's the community reacting at this point? And what's the communication like from Square? Are they saying anything?
Yeah, they're definitely saying more than they did during Beta Phase 4. I mean, Beta Phase 4 took us, 2-3 days to hear about a problem. In this case, at most, it took maybe 2-3 hours before they acknowledged something. And I think they were really waiting for it to become a huge, huge problem, but it became a huge, huge problem really, really quickly. I think to some degree they still could do better with the communication, because as soon as it happens, within 30 minutes, we should at least know something, in my opinion. As for the community reacting, that depends on what part of the community you're asking. The part of the community that had no problems, or the part of the community that had every problem? Because it seems that as soon as you hit one problem, you just kept hitting each and every one repeatedly.
That's interesting. Something else really quick about the servers.
You're sugarcoating that a little bit. The community burnt the internet down. They burnt the damn thing down.
No, because
after the first repair, they had some goodwill. They had some goodwill, and it was okay. There's a mistake. Let them fix it. It's going to take 3 hours. It sucks. Okay, fine. Fix it. And they fixed. They did their thing. When everybody logged in after that, and within minutes, everybody recognized that the duty finder was broken again, despite having been down for 2 hours. There started to be a little bit of rage. Hours later, they took it down the second time, and within minutes of coming back in, everybody recognized it's broken again. It's still not working. The third time they took it down, even fanboys were like, really? Come on now. Let's get this fixed. And they burnt the internet down, Gary.
But again, I was trying. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've seen both sides of it, because I know people who, even during the duty finder error, were still getting into their duties and were still getting them completed. People who were still moving on with the stories. Dungeons were a whole other story, because you needed people who were 4 people who were able to get into it. But there were people who were still getting in. They were like the 5% maybe people who didn't have the problem, and that's what I mean by you asked that. I mean, even at the beginning, we know we said Rift had a good launch, but this has had its own problems. And
this is around. Are we talking like timeline wise? Are we talking now about like Saturday night? Was that where we're at here?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we're getting into Saturday night right around this point. Because the first 24 hours, the communication was pretty good. You had to know where to follow it, because all of a sudden a new Twitter account came out of nowhere, and that account was actually pretty good at posting news, but you had to know that it was there. The second 24 hours, things started to lighten up communication-wise after multiple repairs, and I think that's when the community really started to get upset. The first 24 hours, we were able to go, okay, at least we know what they're doing, what they're taking a look at, how long roughly it's going to take. The second 24 got a little bit dicey. And if you go to their forums, too, the official forums, there's forums on how great the communication was and forums on how terrible the communication was. And it all depends on, did you know where to look, because they created these offshoots and posts the day of that nobody knew were there.
Now, what's going on at this point? What's going on with the Japanese servers? I'm talking about saying at this point, meaning Saturday night, like, the timeline. What's going on with Japanese servers? I mean, are they having any issues, or is this strictly an NAEU thing?
Well, I opened up the jar on this one.
Yes, you did.
So
this is all
I might as well talk about it. I want to note what you said there very closely, and that it's Japanese servers against NA and EU servers. And that's a big thing, because Japanese servers did have the problem once. They did say they were going to shut them down. And that was during only one of the 3 times that they brought it down for the duty finder problem. And it did happen during, Japanese times peak hours, so it's a little bit more understandable. But I want to note that we have to combine both North America and EU, and that's probably a big part of the problem, that they're stuffing 2 regions into one data center. 2 regions that play the game a lot. So, well, that's probably a big reason why we're having these issues in the first place.
Well, another thing,
stuff it all into one thing.
I was going to even say, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it even slightly odd that the entire United States are all being funneled to Canada? I mean, every other MMO that I can sort of think of has East Coast and West Coast servers, and usually some Midwest to kind of break up for latency issues. I didn't know this until the weekend, and somebody told me about that everything is in Canada at one spot, and I was like, that's interesting. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe more companies actually do this. I'm not aware of it. I always thought that more, it was more spread out across the country. So now we're not only talking the entire US, we're talking all the US, and like you said, the entire EU also being jammed. And is it literally one data center? We know that for a fact.
It's one data center.
I mean, we can't blame it on that.
We were all funneled to Japan, so
yeah.
We don't know. Well, we don't know if that's the actual issue, do we? Like, do we have confirmation that the issue is the data center because we can blame it on them, or like, is it is it a coding issue and something
that's
just
like the only thing Square has been pretty forthcoming about.
Oh, like, really? They're just like, those guys.
Our data center was not ready for this number of people. It can't handle it. That's why you see the server cap limitations, the error you have behind you going into place right now, and people not able to get in or create characters. And they just announced today that they're going to be doing upgrades to the Japanese data center because now they're experiencing these same errors. They're closing creation on servers, Japanese servers, because most of the American players are over there. They're closing the character creation.
That might be why they have to do it. Why they think they need data centers over there now, because all the North American players are going there to try it out.
Yeah, it's just a mess. It's a mess. I would love to white knight it. I really would. I would love to just white knight it and say, dude, they were, oh, it's okay. It'll all be good. And I'm sure it will all eventually work out in the end. How long it will take is something we can talk about. But the problem in my book is that out of all the MMOs that have launched in the last 2 years, this is the one that could ill afford this type of situation.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Whether it was 2 weeks or 2 months.
But we did talk about in the last episode, and not to toot my horn, but I was saying the same thing. I said the people who are going to be really pissed, the people who took off of work. But I kind of said expect problems. Like they're going to happen. Like, so whatever they we're going to be angry about them, whether it was this or a different problem. But there were problems. So, all right, let's move on. So going into day 2. New problem hits players. Server logins now become limited, and yes, limited. So now I'm gonna assume maybe that this is a band-aid fix for a problem, because I don't know what happened to the good old queue system that we've all been accustomed to for years and years of MMO playing. But that wasn't there. It was just
No.
server's full, try again later.
Yep.
Sorry.
And we did a stream last night, XIV Nation and MMORPG.com, and Rob made probably the best comment regarding this whole thing. I don't understand why Square Enix can't have people stand in line. We've been standing in line since the beginning of time, and we will stand in line for things afterwards. With what they're doing now, it's basically forcing gamers to DDoS their own servers by just sitting there and spamming.
This is true. But I gotta think they know this. They're not stupid people. I gotta think that they know this. That's why I say that there must be another underlying issue here that they do not have even the queuing system in place, and they're actually treating it like this. This has to be a Band-Aid on the back end for something that is like that they're working on. There's no way.
I hope so, but they this whole thing, Mr. Happy. Two things: just give me a queue, and boot the AFKers. That's it. That's it.
You seem to really want to.
I don't care if the queue says 500. This is another ironic thing, right, Gary? We all complain about queues in MMO launches. Oh my God, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm in a queue of 490. Now everybody on the Final Fantasy side is like, dear God, just give me a queue. Could you just give me a queue?
Could you just give me a number? At least I can go get a Sammy and I'll have a sandwich and a drink and all that. But again, that's why I gotta say,
AFKers, you should not be able to stand in the game forever.
I think that's why there's an underlying issue here. They have to be working on something else. They know about queues. There has to be some other underlying issue here that they are being forced right now to do this. There's got to be a reason that it's like technically they're saying like we can't put the queue system in right now until we fix something because the queue system is not going to make this happen. There has to be a reason that they are handcuffed right now to do this. Because I agree. In what world is this a good plan to just tell people, hey, it's full? It isn't, and they have to know this.
Right, and chat saying there is a queue, there is a queue. Yeah, there's this odd little queue thing in between the world is full and you getting in that sometimes it flashes that says you're in a queue of anywhere from 50 to 900 and always takes 30 seconds. That's not a queue. That's a little waiting room. I don't know what that is. It's not a traditional queue.
So at this point, we're 2 days into early access. I'm laughing by the fact that I even pre-ordered the game at this point because I didn't have to, and I wasn't going to. And I was like, man, I feel obligated to at least get some time in over the weekend in the early access for next show because if I don't, I'm going to be the only one who doesn't play at all. And by this point, I played maybe, I don't know, 2 hours. $30 down the drain. How long have you two guys gotten to play at this point up in the timeline of, I guess, like the second day?
Well, I got to play a moderate amount. I think that even a lot of the time I was online, though, I couldn't really do much because of the duty finder problem. So the first day, if you count the time I was actually doing things that I wanted to do, maybe 6 hours in the first 24 hours between the maintenances and the duty finder not working and everything. At some point, I even just got fed up with, before the whole 1017 thing with the duty finder, and I would log off and log back on and try to get into the duty again, just because I just needed to keep going, and it never worked for me. So 6 hours, and then by the second day, I got...
Yeah, let's talk like into early like Monday morning. Where you at?
Yeah, I gotta compartmentalize it because there were different problems on every day that like completely stopped me from doing everything I wanted to do. So then the second day it was like 6 hours. I was 1017, and then I think that was it. So probably the other 18 maybe. So maybe a full 24 hours out of the first 2 days by Monday morning. Yeah, I'd go ahead and say that.
What about you, Bern?
I got like 16 to 18 hours in on day one. I got in pretty much right at 5 a.m. and I burned through a good 15 to 16 hours straight there. A couple breaks in there. I had already done the instances in open beta that lead up to the Ifrit fight, and I just needed to do that, and I logged in fast enough that I was able to get the duty finder to queue that fight. And so I was pretty much good for the rest of the day. I wasn't depending on having to run dungeons have any of those real beefy story scenes that were on a separate server. So I caught a nice groove there. Sunday, I didn't get on at all. At all. I got on finally again Sunday night at around 11:30, just in time for midnight maintenance.
And Byrne, you had your own little artistic gallery of emotional images.
Mr. Happy shaking his head.
What? Let's see. What is
Mr. Happy tweeted me? I was like, yes, I know.
So what do you call this first one?
That's called futility. Because that's after many clicks.
It's like a series. What about this second one here? What do we call this one?
That's hope, because that's a Q,
hope.
Gary. That's a Q right there. It's not a real Q, but it's a fake Q that gives you hope. A lot of hope, because the number counts down for a moment or two sometimes. So I have hope there.
Finally, to conclude the trilogy.
Yeah, I can't give the name of that on the stream here. We'll just say that it's a 4-letter word with an F and a K in it. I'll let you guys sort it out, but that's the name of that piece there, because that's after hope. They happen sequentially.
You should put these in the MoMA.
I should.
Yeah.
I thought about making oils of them and actually mailing them to you for this show.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Mail them
You know what
to
I
me,
really
I'll
like?
hang them up in my room. They're so
You know what I
artistic.
really like? Let's go through. I really love how the beer glass just slowly empties. Look at it in the background. It's like, oh, I'm so full, and I'm just going to quench your thirst. Oh, yeah. It's getting later, and we're hoping. Oh, well.
Yes, I may have imbibed on a few occasions there.
Just be glad
All
you
right.
weren't using bottles.
So it's been pretty easy to poke comments at the game, with everything that's going on and blah blah blah. But I mean, I brought up on a previous show my concerns about open beta being so short and small. I don't know. Do you think now in hindsight that possibly this open beta should have been extended and some of these issues could have been kind of worked out with a longer beta period?
I don't know, because some of these errors the errors that we had on the first day with the duty finder wasn't something that we experienced too much in open beta, probably because not enough people could get on. But it's really hard to say. I think no matter what, the answer is yes, it should have been longer. There's no getting around it. It definitely needed to be longer. I just don't know how much better it would have prepared us for this, because we still don't even know how long these issues are going to be in place. So how much could they have really gotten done in the extra time that they got, unless it was maybe an extra month or so?
And on the flip side, I gotta, and I think in game design, especially MMO design, there's just a certain number of things that they can't really calculate. They can run simulations and things like that, but then even in betas, it's still different from a technological standpoint of when they actually open up the floodgates. That's why all of these games always have problems, even with like as much money as they could possibly have with them. Almost every company to some extent has some sort of issue. And this is the problem. They can't factor in everything. There's not like, I know gamers think there's like some magic computer somewhere where they all of a sudden like hit the enter button and it runs everything to balance the game, to server load test balance. No, it doesn't really work like that. Like they start it up and then like people do things and they're just like, wow, we didn't think anybody would think of that. Nobody in the office thought of that. So I don't know.
I think, unfortunately, I have to admit, Gary, you were right, and you and I kind of debated this on a previous show. Should the open beta be a little bit longer? Should it be a little bit earlier? Maybe spaced out more between open beta and early access? And I thought, judging by the previous betas, that a couple of days was all they really needed, and I think it might have still been all they really needed, but Square fell victim, I think, to its own systems here. In the fact that all of the errors that we got for the first 24 to 48 hours, and we're still experiencing, right? All of those types of errors are things that could have been rectified by just slamming the hell out of the servers in an open beta. Maybe not rectified, I misspoke there, identified by slamming the hell out of the servers. you couldn't get that done the way you would normally do that in an open beta because of Square's register for the open beta, wait for us to kick you a code, go put in the code, and now you can participate in the open beta. I think if they would have just done a more traditional open beta goes live on the 17th, it's going to go shut down on the 19th, here's the download client, go get it, beat the hell out of the servers, have fun for 48 hours. I think we would have been more apt to see a lot more people in there, and some of these problems would have probably come to the forefront a little bit faster than having to wait for early access. I don't think the length of the open beta determined anything, but I think they might have fallen victim to their own systems here a little bit and kind of hamstrung themselves on what they would be able to see during an open beta.
So Yoshi-P jumped and wrote an apology on the official forums detailing what each of the maintenance addressed. So he had this to say. He said, although we have successfully addressed a number of serious issues in the past several days, we have nevertheless decided to implement login restrictions for the time being due to the extremely heavy load being placed upon the servers. In this way, we can ensure that the maximum number of players can play the game without risking a server crash. I know no one wants to wait to log in, but I hope you all understand why we believe this precaution is necessary. He went on to say, once again, I would like to sincerely apologize to all the players who have been unable to enjoy early access due to the tremendous congestion and in assuring connections to the frequent maintenance, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, he's sorry, basically. Basically it. I don't know. I'm sure the apologies are. I mean, here's the thing. No developer working all these years, like, don't get me wrong, none of them do not want us to play the game. Believe me, it is killing them that we cannot play the game. They've been working their asses off to make this game possible and get this launched. They don't want to flip the servers on that night, and they're not like sitting back with a cigar laughing at the unable to log in. Plan totally working as intended. These noobs can't even log in, whatever. Blah.
And in the launch event yesterday, he was very, very emotional, Yoshi-P, on not only the front of getting the project out the door and hoping that the fans felt it was worth being saved the way he felt it was worth being saved, but also in all the translations I've seen, granted they're not official translations, but in every translations I've seen, there's even a mention of the NA-EU data center issues in that speech, and the man was moved to tears. You know, and kudos to what his team did. 2.5 years for what they did is an astounding feat, and hopefully these are the types of problems that 6 months from now we'll be laughing about, because we'll be talking about some of the great things that the game does do, which we're going to get into in a minute.
And everybody will be. That's exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, it's just these were going to happen. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they're happening to XIV because of its history, and this reboot is the biggest thing. You know, not that we would have given them slack if there wasn't a reboot and this was the first time it was coming out. People would still been pissed off. There's no doubt. I'm not saying that, because when you can't play a game, you're just angry. But again, everybody just, you know, this is why at this point in the timeline, I was watching the chat room and I could tell things were really starting to heat up amongst the XIV Nation people. I started seeing the forum posts pop up and I was like, hey, just go out and take a walk. Like, you know what I was doing? Well, people couldn't log in, so I had a live stream going. I was playing Hearthstone, hanging out with XIV and chatting about, you know, letting them all chat about Final Fantasy, but couldn't play, so had something. By the way, we do have beta keys. Hearthnation.com. Go over if you're looking for a beta key. Enter to win a beta key to Hearthstone. All right. I think his apology is heartfelt. I mean, here's a guy who, like, nobody knew who he was. They gave him this big, huge, monumental thing. Like I said, I know sometimes for gamers it may feel like, you know, they're trying to screw you and you're just angry and you want to play. Believe me, they are working their asses off to try and get this thing up and running for you. The last thing they want is people can't log into their game. But is there a long-term solution? What is a long-term solution? Have they said anything yet? Are they kind of gone dark again? What's happening at this point as far as some of the issues that we're still dealing with?
Sorry, something just happened sound-wise for me.
Yeah, you look very confused. All right, Vern, you go.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. That's just the frustration, especially on my end. When I'm in game, I have so much fun doing just about everything. It's getting in the game that I get, and there's just that frustration of, tell me that you're going to go add more servers. Tell me that you're going to burn the data center down and build a new one. but it's going to be offline for a week. Just tell me something.
That isn't always the solution. I know everybody just thinks throw more servers at the
No. I'm not saying that is. I just want them to tell me something. Here's what we're going to do. I don't care what that something is. Give me an idea of we've isolated the problem. Here's what we're going to do. It's going to take 3 months. That sucks. But at least I know, right?
I agree wholeheartedly that the transparency of the internet today is something that more companies need to pick up on and realize that, like, hey, you could just come on XIV Reborn and just tell us why, and then we'll probably all forgive you and be like, all right, cool. But yeah, I know a lot of people are just like, throw more servers at it, throw more servers at it. That's not always, that's not an, for technical and monetary reasons, and even for a good gameplay experience long-term for gamers, that's not always the answer. They can't throw like 100 more servers up so you can all get into them. There's 3 people on every server, and then all of a sudden in 3 months they have to do server mergers. That's also, that also doesn't work. So it's a whole balancing act of what they have to do here, and it's not easy. But I agree with you. Companies need to understand that, like, what they do need is they need to put a face to things like this and actually hopefully speak up. I don't think we're going to get it from Square like we hope we are, but they've opened up a little bit. But yes, all they got to do is just kind of say, hey, we're aware of this issue. We are working on this issue. Even if you say we don't even have an ETA of fixing the issue, at least acknowledge it. Because right now, everybody's still just sort of like, what?
And kudos, they have been a lot better than usual over the last 72 hours as far as the communication. The launcher gets pretty frequent updates. The forum gets... Granted, the forum was almost impossible to access during the first 48 hours too, but they have been a little bit better. Just continue getting better. That's all. Credit where it's due. They definitely deserve a partial thumbs up for increasing the communication.
So what do you think about this, P? There's a forum post floating around where people were kind of upset, obviously, and feeling that Squeenix should be maybe giving something out as a compensation for lost time during early access. Did you see this post?
I don't think I was even able to get on the forums to see that post. And today has been a bit of... It's true, though. I really wasn't able most of the time. I was relying on their Twitter. So, well, both of them.
What do you think, though? I mean, do you think that they should offer some sort of compensation for early access?
I think that since early access at this point, no matter what, you paid the same price for the game, regardless of whether or not you bought it after early access or before early access. But the draw to get people to pre-order your game, to even get, part of it was early access. It was one of the major bonuses that you were getting.
Hey, I bought it and didn't even have to buy it.
I don't understand. But
why? No, because was it 1.0 players? You couldn't get early access if you owned 1.0. You couldn't get early access. So I purchased it. I bought another copy for $30 to get in to play early access.
Well, there you go. See, then compensation seems sort of deserved to some degree. I mean, you told people they were going to get something, and you didn't give it to them. I mean, in my eyes, that's just the way it is. And I don't know what they're going to compensate. Maybe they'll give people an extra 3 days to play the game that you don't have to pay. Maybe they'll give you some swimwear in the game free. I don't know what they're going to do. But I feel that some form of compensation is definitely deserved amongst the community.
Yeah, I think it'd be a nice gesture. Early access peeps, like, hey, here's a piece of armor or some sort of, just even if it's not even stat based, like you said, just something, mount or just some. I don't know. What do you think, Byrne? You don't think we should get anything?
I totally agree with you that, yes, it would be a nice gesture and it would be the right thing if I was running a business to do something, right? I'm 100% with you. Early access had no monetary value to me. Whether I got the basic set or the advanced one, the collector set, it didn't matter. I got early access, which means out of that, it has a zero-sum dollar value. Now, to Gary, you may disagree because you only bought that version because you wanted early access. To me, that ranks right up there with you pre-ordering a game and paying in advance and being disappointed with the game. I still own Aliens Colonial Marines. I'm not going to get a refund on that for how bad that game was. I should. I feel I should. I feel they should give me a copy of Borderlands 2 to make up for it. I can understand the argument, and yes, I would be more than happy to accept some type of token of appreciation, but I don't think it's a requirement or an entitlement on my side now.
I agree with you there. I don't think it's a requirement or entitlement. I feel like with some of the bad press going around and, you know, dealing with the reboot and everything, kind of would be nice, especially because you feel like the people who pre-ordered are your really hardcore fans who have been there for a long time, like really waiting for this. So it'd be kind of, throw some swim trunks at everybody, right?
Yeah, swim trunks. That's why I said that, because it's something little. It shows that they appreciate you a little bit.
Just throw some pixels at us, you know. Just give us a little. It's nothing. The cost of that asset can't be that big of a deal. All right, I want to tell you guys about Netflix. I want to move on to the more positive portion of the show.
Agree. We're done.
Agree. We're done. So I want to break it up and tell you guys first about Netflix. Have you guys checked out Netflix, the streaming service? Check out a free 30-day trial. All you got to do is go to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Use that URL. Sign up today, and you download the app to your iOS device, your Android, your iPad, Roku, Apple TV, all of those different devices to watch Chromecast. Any of them, they all pull into Netflix, and you can start watching movies and television shows and anime and all kinds of cool stuff. Breaking Bad new episodes are up there. Orange is the New Black, everybody's talking about that. Great reviews there. That's a Netflix original show. Hunger Games, just some of the stuff. Oh, I haven't seen The Dictator yet. I kind of want to watch that. Maybe I'll watch that tonight. But check it out. If you guys have not signed up, check it out. Go over today, netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Just use that URL, sign up today, and get a free 30-day trial. You can start streaming, no caps, no bandwidth, no limit on the amount of movies. Just go start watching it and using it for 30 days. Check it out. Go over netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. All right, let's move on to the positive portion of today's episode. Thank you so much, as most of you have tuned out by now. Let's start with you, P. You had some guild plans. So, errors aside, how have you been passing the time in Eorzea?
Well, when I'm not having errors, the main story was the first big priority when it was actually working, and other than that, making sure to get some of the basics done that I couldn't get done in Beta Phase 4 because of my problems there, such as getting all the teleports in the map, making sure I had class quests done, making sure I had certain crafting things ready. A lot of it is just in preparation of that level 50 grind that everybody gets to eventually in every MMO. And it was good. Overall, when I was on and everything was working, it was a good experience. It was definitely better than 1.0, I can tell you that.
I know, I couldn't believe that you finished the story that quick. I wasn't YouTube, but you were Legacy. So, but any achievements that we should know about? I mean, you guys haven't taken down Coil and moved over to Test Realm to check out 2.1 already. Are you already doing that?
I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna talk about anything of that magnitude of what's being done in the back. I think that's not really my place in the free company to really do anything like that. But things are happening. I'll say that.
Oh, stuff is going down.
What about the challenges we talked about, like world first, server world first, all that kind of stuff, the world first race? Do we have pretty much winners for some of those things or most of those things already?
I think a lot of things that people tend to either go for like Realm first or world first kind of don't even matter so much because of the errors. It's like, oh, you got world first scholar at 50. Well, half of the world that was trying to compete against you couldn't even log on. So there's really the only world first anyone seems to care about at this point is Coil. So there hasn't, as far as, unless it's just happened in the past hour that we've been on, we don't really have any winners for much of anything.
I saw you put out that video about the story in ARR and maybe a special mount. Without going into spoiling anything, no spoilers. No spoilers. What's your verdict on the story and the whole presentation, besides just being better than 1.0?
This story, if you don't skip anything and you pay attention to all of the story icons with the little meteor symbol next to it, I have to say it's one of the most impressive Final Fantasy stories I've ever experienced, really.
Really?
I mean, everyone in my free company, when they finished it at the end, they stopped. They just said a few words. They were like, this is amazing. This makes me feel like this makes me feel like 10 years ago when I first played Final Fantasy. And
wow.
It's in epic proportions how good it is if you really, even if you skip some of it and you just pay attention to the end.
Hold on, I'm going to start F5ing. I'm going to start F5ing right now. Hang on. Really? That good? Go. That good, huh?
It's real. Like this. I mean, some people have problems with the voice acting, which might, you know, kill it for some people. But if just in context, the story was really well done, and it just makes you wish that it was a little bit longer.
Isn't that with every great game, though?
Let me ask you this. Is it worth a Final Fantasy fan picking up the software just to experience the storyline for $30 and with no intention of subscribing, just playing for that free month just to experience the storyline? Because that's a big part of what Yoshi-P wanted, was this to cater to both crowds. Is the story on that caliber where it would be worth that type of player picking it up? I'm enjoying it so far, but you've seen it all the way through.
Yes, easily worth $30, especially considering most single-player Final Fantasies were launching at $60. So it's like experiencing a full Final Fantasy story for half the price.
Man, that's a great review. I know, but that's spoiling anything. Now I'm all intrigued. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play. Burn, you had a big ass party over at the pad. I was a little jealous. So forget the game. How did the party go?
It went fine. We tweeted out pictures of massive amounts of computing equipment all together in 1 or 2 rooms there, and extension cords and fire hazards and everything set up. So it went well. It went well.
Was it the kind of party where people just like passed out where they fell?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely play until you can't anymore, and then sleep wherever you happen to find enough space to do so.
All right,
talk about the game.
Sure. All right. So you must have gotten some time in. What did you get done?
I got Thaumaturge is now 30, so getting ready to pick up Black Mage. I have to level Archer a little bit. I leveled Arcanist to about 12 and got Fishing to 12-ish as well. So keeping the story moving, keeping the logs moving. Got all my collector's edition goodies, so I'm riding around with my coral mount, having a blast, loving life when I'm in the game. You know what? I can't say enough good things. We've already talked about before that, yes, it's more traditional in the systems aspect. I'm totally okay with that. There are other MMO players that like that as well. If you do, I'm having a blast in the game. It's beautiful. I'm loving the story so far. The instances are fun. They're getting progressively harder, which is what I like to see. As I'm going along, the mechanics are becoming increasingly complex, moving along. I can't complain about any single thing besides the stuff we talked about earlier. So, thumbs up. To me, it's a great game.
Because we had some questions and we have some people wondering, and we mentioned last week about the class differences. So what's the official word on Black Mage? What classes were needed?
Yeah, how about that? Thaumaturge obviously needed to be level 30, and then Archer, level 15, is the requirement. And I had prepped Arcanist just in case, and then when I hit 30 on Thaumaturge, I went to try to pick up the job quest. It was read it out. I couldn't pick it up because I didn't have the requirements, but I wanted to peek at what it said were the requirements, and it was Thaumaturge 30 and Archer 15 to move into Black Mage territory. And then the other one we were kind of unclear on last week was White Mage. Mr. Happy and I were kind of like, well, we think it will be this, but we weren't quite sure. Is Conjurer 30 and Arcanist 15. So yeah, those are the two that we needed to clear up from last week, and there's your answer. Archer for Black Mage.
And I see the chat wondering why Archer. I'll just do that real quick. Archer has an enmity reducing tool, and it has a damage increasing tool. Those are the two tools that you really do. Although, lore-wise, I still don't think it makes much sense.
Burn, I was I remember I chatted you during the midst of all this, and I was like, "Are you raging right now?" And you were like, "No, not really. I'm just kind of hanging out and chilling." But somebody else in your house is a little upset, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty laid back. I mean, you know that, and most of our viewers know that. So no, I didn't get worked up. I said, yeah, all this BS, it sucks and everything, but in the end, it's a video game, right? It's a video game. Not so for the missus. The missus was raging with the rest of the internet because she could not get past a particular story quest with the whole duty finder and everything. So yeah, it was very weird. Don't get between my wife and a story quest, apparently, because she will rage face on something fierce. Right?
P, what are you gonna do now? By the way, what is your plan now? Like, what do you do?
Well, achievements is a big one. There's actually a lot of really cool stuff that will take a while to get at max level, and some of it's aesthetic, like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to ruin it for you. I'll let you experience it there. But there's relics. Relics are a big, no, because it's honestly, if you're a Final Fantasy fan especially, they're great things. There's relic weapons, there's coil, and then there's all the prep for 2.1, really. Plus, I got a ton of guides to put out. So what about exploration as far as like the world goes? Once you hit max level, have you pretty much seen everything there is to see, or is there a lot to experience at max? You've pretty much seen most of the world, especially Coerthas. A lot of Coerthas. And Mordona, but there's still little parts that you'll find that you'll think, oh wow, I didn't see this on my way through the story. They're really cool. But there's no area there's no like just brand new area at max level that you've never seen before, other than a few things in the story.
Gotcha. All right, moving on. Apparently, the internet was a bit confused about the whole, not only the day the NDA falls, but actually when a Realm Reborn is like officially launching. So we all knew the open beta dates, the early access dates, and the official launch date. Launch is on the 27th, right? Right?
That was the date we all had.
That is the date we had. But then early access happened. This page over here, the lodestone this kind of came up.
Yeah.
Why is it all dark? It's loading something. Well, according to this page, this doesn't want to load, but according to this page, the early access goes to the 29th.
Oh, that's what was loading.
Oh, that was loading.
It's your first time visiting.
I've never visited this place before. What is this part of the end? Is this 4chan? What is this? Yeah, so lots of confusion. It says right here, early access, August 24th, 2013.
The internet went nuts.
To August 29th, 2013. So what is the deal? Did early access get extended or what?
Here's the deal, and it's a good idea, but the way that they said it caused panic. Early access gives you early access to the game early, but it was pretty much a common fact that when the game launched, you'd have to put in a product code to prove that you had the game, that you didn't just pre-order it, get the code, and like cancel it or something. That's what they did. They gave you 3 extra days to put in your product registration code. While the launch was on the 27th, they know some people are going to be waiting for the game in the mail, and there could be a mail problem, or maybe they didn't know where their code was, or they lost it and they have to retrieve it. They're giving people 3 days of time to get their code in for the actual game, so that they know that, so that Square Enix is aware that you actually purchased it. It was a good idea. It's not a good idea to put it that way that they did in that post.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for the clarification on that. Now, being press, the big thing we always want to know is, when can we stream? When can we post videos? When can we start?
Right now.
Yes.
But you got to follow some rules.
Just a few.
A lot of rules.
So the NDA fell yesterday out of nowhere. Like, just all of a sudden, boom, NDA's gone, and do what you want to do. So I shouldn't panic and post on every internet thing about everything's being delayed.
That's what happened with the internets there.
So everybody can post now, but you just gotta you can post videos, but there's quite a few rules from what I understand. Quite a few.
Yeah.
What do you think this is gonna do?
It's a non-NDA NDA kind of.
Yeah.
We're not under NDA, but there are some things under embargo.
But here I don't want to start going through the NDA and trying to like decipher all of this stuff. But what's everybody's feeling on this? Because I'm not sure, but what it seems to me like almost if you go and you start digging through terms of service of almost every online game out there in MMO, there are things in there that basically give them the power to nuke and control anything on the internet as far as video goes and YouTube. So like they have the power, which is understandable, right? Now, do they enforce these things? Most of the time, you know, if it's all done in good will, like, I mean, technically every video game video on YouTube could be nuked by the developer or the publisher. Like that's just, it's in there somewhere. They could do it. So I don't know, like not going through this, I don't know where the line is going to be drawn here as far as like, I know there's a lot of questions from a lot of people who are content creators on the internet, including Gamebreaker, Mr. Happy, you know, Jesse Cox, everybody's questioning going like, wow, like this seems really heavy-handed. Like, are we going to be able to put stuff out or not? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't really have I don't think anybody knows the answer. I think people are just going to start putting stuff out and just see kind of where what happens. And I don't know, but I guess if you guys create videos and if you get nuked on YouTube with copyright infringements or something, definitely let us know because I'd like to hear about and see where this line is going to be drawn because can't quite tell yet.
Anything happens, Gary, you'll hear from me.
Oh, I'm sure. I am sure. There's something else. The Mog Station. This came out of like nowhere, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I think this needed to be implemented. It's about time. Wait, is this for real? I can manage my account, enter software serial numbers, and select my subscription and payment status all in one site?
You sound incredulous, Gary.
Has Square Enix lost their minds? This seems like it just makes too much sense. I don't know. What's your take on the Mog Station? Do you guys like it? Is it missing anything? What do you think? I mean, is it doing everything on one page that you kind of feel you need to do?
It has all the things that I would like, but it's not quite user-friendly yet. And there's one big problem with it right now that we didn't notice until midnight, pretty much. And that is, it's very easy to accidentally enter your software registration key as a second account, thus not giving your collector's edition items, if that's the edition you got, to the character you've currently been playing, but instead to a secondary account which you have yet to create a character on. There's some user-friendliness aspects here that need to be worked out because people are accidentally creating second accounts and kind of either losing their progress or losing their CEs, whichever one they want to give up to jump to the other account. So it's nice having all the features. Still some bugs to work out of that one, though.
But the logo artist should have just gotten a freaking award, man. Boobs. Come on.
It's a Moogle smiling. You don't see that? You don't see that?
Nope, I don't. What's up with entry accounts? 1 character per world, maximum of 8 characters. Only being able to subscribe in 30-day increments. I know this is a lot of people were confused by that. They're like, what, really? Standard accounts can do what, 30, 90, and 180 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Do you know? Because the only thing we came up with, Justin Kennedy and I were chatting about this pretty much at great length, and the only thing we can come up with is that with the entry account, there is no discount. There's no discount on a price break when you go from 1 month to 3 months to 6 months buying them in bulk, where on the standard account there is. So therefore, the entry account would have no need to purchase in 30, 60, or 30, 90, or 180-day increments. That's the only thing we could come up with, and even then, it's a little flaky, but at least provides a reason why there weren't 3 options there.
Yeah, and for me, it's the exact same feeling. And it's even more awkward that on the website, you can only buy these 30-day increments, but you could still go get a game time card for 60 days. So why not open up? Why not just open up the option for the entry accounts to just pay the same amount for those extra periods. Your reason is the only reason I can think of, but it still doesn't.
Still seems confusing.
And it sucks on the veterans reward side of things. Because now you can't front load that money to get a bunch of awards.
And there's a lot of the veteran rewards are detailed in a lot of detail in the FAQ if you guys want to check that out. So there's a lot of that there. No new rewards announced yet, besides the ones we've already discussed on past episodes. Mildly interesting is that version 1.0 subscriptions don't count for vet rewards. I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? I guess, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got your legacy stuff, so...
Yeah, it makes sense.
All I know is that 30-day hand minion is going to be mine, even if I get wrapped up in some other game. I will own the effing hand.
The hand.
The hand.
That's all I want. I want to call it the law.
It is the law. All right, before we get out of here, let's do some viewer questions. If you guys have questions for the XIV crew, send them in to submit at xivnation.com. That is the email address. Keep an eye on our Facebook page as well as our Twitter. And we love video questions. So if you guys have video questions, record yourself on YouTube. Keep it to about 30 seconds, minute tops, and then shoot us the link. Go post it up on YouTube and then shoot us the link, and then we'll play it on the show. First up, Holly Howell says, can you clarify how limit break works? Who wants to take this one?
I'll take that because she's kind of referencing our stream last night with MMORPG. Limit break in a party situation is a meter that fills up as you attack various monsters. When the meter is full, somebody can pop the limit break, which is a special attack, a special buff, whatever. It depends on who uses it. If your tank uses it, your entire party gets a defensive buff. If your healer uses it, everybody gets a big heal put on them. Ranged DPS, if they trigger the limit break, it's an AoE attack of very, very nice power, and if a melee DPS does it, it's a single target DPS attack of very, very awesome animations. Go check it out. Now, what Holly's asking here for was a little more clarification, because only one person in the party can use it when it's the meter is full. It is something you have to discuss with your party ahead of time, or somebody will shout out, so-and-so use limit break. There's a button in your actions, drag it out to your hotbar when you get to use it, or when somebody tells you to use it, click on that button. Because no, it's not an automatic thing. There's not going to be any indicator on who should use it. It's something to encourage the party to work together to decide who's going to use it and at what point.
All right, next up, Carl
Once
Church.
you use it, nobody else can until you refill the meter. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Carl Churchill wants to know, this is Mr. P, you can take this one. He says, our Mikote is taking over. All I see are cat girls everywhere.
Why do I get this one?
I don't know.
I purposely avoided that because I see too many of them. I'm the only big burly Rugadin out there, it seems. Every time I'm in a dungeon finder group, I'm just towering over other people. There's cat girls everywhere because...
So they are taking over.
They are taking... I mean, their male ones are taking over, too. But after seeing the dance animation for a male Makote, you might want to rethink that one. It's not a good animation at all. I think the Rugadin one's the only one that's worse.
Last up this week, Michael Husky asked a question about a topic that we hit on a little bit earlier. He says, is it possible that when the server restrictions are lifted, will there be a free transfer, possibly? Have they said anything about transfers?
They have very vaguely alluded to, yes, well, they've already confirmed that there would be the transfer capability. They have not given a date exactly when that service would be available, but you can find the button for it on your Mog Station already. The problem here is assuming that they get this whole restrictions thing lifted pretty quickly, right? They fix whatever they need to fix, and these server restrictions. There's still a problem in allowing server transfers very quickly, and that problem is Mr. Happy and his legacy friends, is that they've tried to keep this legacy versus non-legacy separate for a little while until economies balance across the board, and then open up server transfers, which if they take the limits off of these servers and allow a transfer right now, they're kind of undoing what they had previously tried to set up. So I wouldn't expect them right away. No, sadly.
What do you think, P? You think they're going to offer a free one?
That's potential compensation. That's definitely, especially because a lot of people have had to make characters on other servers just to enjoy the game. That actually is a pretty high possibility for a free transfer. So again, I think the legacy thing is part of it, but at the same time, there are so many technicalities in a legacy player transferring or trying to keep us separate, and they already let new players, come onto the legacy servers. Like they let them make new characters there. So I think that what they should do is offer free transfers for all the newer service accounts, for all the non-legacy accounts, and just leave the legacy accounts out of it for once. Because we're not unless we're transferring to another legacy server anyway, we're probably not going anyplace anytime soon. So just give it to the new players and leave us out of it.
Michael Poveromo, follow him on Twitter at Mr. Happy1227, and of course go over to his YouTube channel, Mr. Happy, and right here on XIV Reborn. Always a pleasure, sir. Mr. Mike Byrne, follow him on Twitter at MagicMan, MIGICKMANN1, and you can also see him on This Week in MMO every Friday at 4 PST as well. Always a pleasure, sir. You can follow me at Gary Gannon, follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV, and we've got XIV Nation on Facebook, all that good stuff, facebook.com/XIV Nation. If you guys looking for, like I said, beta keys, Hearthstone beta keys, go over to hearthnation.com. We got a brand new all Hearthstone website, part of the Gamebreaker network. Check that out. And we do the show live every Tuesday at 4 PST. I know the game just launched, but I want to see all your faces here for the live show. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks so much for watching the show. We'll be back again next week for more XIV Reborn. And don't forget to watch Waypoint, the Final Fantasy XIV edition. Have you guys seen this? We launched another show. I should have announced at the top of the show. We launched another Final Fantasy show called Waypoint with Kat Andrusco. Make sure to go over to XIV Nation and watch that as well. Quick little recap news show. All right, we'll see you next week on more XIV Reborn. Have a great week.